Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit ActiveDay.com to apply.
Steering wheel. Lots of steering wheel here. Steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to it. Come on. Whoa.
You like my bass? You like it?
How the that's possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? No more radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down the Hanger Station.
I am so annoyed. Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park from A for podcast number 942, the Canadian Grand Prix review. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camera. You know what we do on race weekends.
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on, Todd.
That's exactly what we do on race weekends. But before doing that, oddly enough, as all of you know, Paul Charsley is over at Le Mans right now. They just wrapped up fourth place in Class and GT at Le Mans, so he is probably en route back stateside. But very graciously sitting in for him, the lovely, the redoubtable Grace, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I did see on, I think it was on Threads, but somebody posted like everybody should stop watching Formula One and should be watching the 24 Hours of Le Mans instead. My thought one was they don't conflict. This is fine, right? Like, because the race ended this morning at like 9 o'clock my time, and Formula One wasn't until like 2 o'clock my time. So they don't conflict. You're fine. But second of all, my second thought was, well, I would have liked to, but somebody had to be at Le Mans, and I have to be here taking notes.
Somebody had to go race at Le Mans, you know.
Whatever, fancy pants.
I know, Mr. Big Time.
Yeah, and I also, so I did not watch overnight, although I do, there is something about like the 2 a.m. announcing, which is always interesting, right?
It always is.
And so I did not watch overnight, but I was like, so as I'm watching the race, and you know, I have live timing and scoring on my phone, right? And I'm like, how did we used to do this without the second screen? I mean, even in Formula One, like now I am easily 3 screens deep at any given race because you need telemetry somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, how did we used to live? I don't know.
I was, I had the whole coverage from practices and quali and the whole race going nonstop and, you know, no commercials, just great. It's a little bit of a bummer because I don't know if it was the world feed or TNT, probably the world feed, but anyway, it just wasn't good coverage of the GT series at all. You know, they spent most of their time talking about Hypercar. Yeah, I get it. But then a lot of time talking about LMB2, which isn't even really in that series, and very little about GT. And it's like, there's a lot of really good battles in GT anyway. Don't get me on a soapbox.
Because I can never remember what Paul's class is. So I kept referring to him to the green ones, right? Because hypercars were the red ones, and then there's the LMP2 that was blue. I was like, he's the green ones. I'm like, this is the worst. You think I don't do this for a living or something, right? Like, oh, he's in the green class.
Right.
LM something H something 3. I don't know.
LMP Hyper H.
It's too many letters. There's like 5 letters and a number. I'm like, I can't.
There's a lot of acronyms in there.
It's too much.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
You know, so, but yeah, good job, Robert Kubica and his team. That was great.
Robert Kubica taking the victory with AF Corsa Ferrari on top. Not the Ferrari probably rather have the 2 red Ferraris on top, but it's a Ferrari nonetheless.
Yeah. Flip thought it was okay because it was yellow.
It was.
So therefore,
it was nice.
You know, even though it wasn't a Corvette, it was okay. It was yellow. So.
Yeah, it was yellow Ferrari. So, and who knew? Good for Bobby K.
Yeah, who doesn't love that guy? So, you know.
That's good.
Right on.
Well, let's jump in the Canadian Grand Prix. Well, you and I got that watched. Paul didn't. He was going on no sleep, so he's probably sleeping.
You know.
I know. He's a machine, that Paul Charsley. A machine. So let's jump into the race, do a little formation lap, to set the table here. What were people talking about heading into this weekend? Really, most of all the talk was about Max's point, and he's got 1 point left, and and then George's quip about, well, I've got more points on my license, so let's see what happens in turn one. But all the talk was, would Max reel back some of his aggressive driving style, and it was all, listening to the Sky pundits, almost a foregone conclusion. They were, Max and George, they hate each other. They're going to go into turn one and clash, and everybody was just bated breath waiting for the big crash at turn one between Max and George. We got a crash all right between two cars. It wasn't those two cars.
No.
Two different cars.
I did want them because, how Max, when he pulls out, it's visual. Sorry for people listening to this, right? But he doesn't pull straight into his box. He pulls angled, right, for the direction he wants to go.
Yeah, George was too.
I know, but I wanted them to be pointed at each other. Right?
more directly pointed at each other.
Correct. Yeah. Not where they wanted to go, but towards each other, right? That's the start I wanted. But I agree. This is sort of we're just trying to make a molehill out of an anthill, or so whatever the phrasing is, right? There you go. Mountain out of, there's no anthills, whatever. A mountain out of a molehill, because they're not going to take each other out. This isn't like Demolition Derby, right? And even if they're mad at each other, and even if you do suffer from red mist, or, Max was angry and that's why that happened, in Spain. But that's not the same as I'm going to turn my car at him and spear him. This isn't sim racing like my friends, right? That's not how this works. He's not going to be waiting in Rasgas to pull into him, right? That's not how this works.
That's right. So he's, and even after the race, he was first congratulate George. They were cordial in the cool down room, and that was, he was fine. I think they overplay that a little bit, but
they do. And Max is also, he is, I don't know what the right adjective for his personality is, but that's just who he is.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just this is dumb. Why do you keep asking me these questions?
Yeah.
That is consistent with who he is and how he answers every question. So I don't know why this would be any different.
No, it shouldn't be a shock.
Right? In the same way that George's response is he's never very cheeky, right? Or he's a little cheeky, but he's really very sort of, polished. He's a sponsor's dream, that George Russell guy.
He's a little goofy.
Right?
He's got an odd personality,
He does, but he's just not the kind of guy that's I'm trying to think of an example in Formula One. He's not Max Biaggi, but that's MotoGP, and that's not going to help people. But, he's not just a mean person. Not that Max Biaggi is a mean person, but, he's not just going to be stabbing people or something. I don't know. They just really made a lot out of what was not really a story.
They made a lot out of it. The other talking point really was, if you were watching on Friday, I was kind of trying to see, as everyone does, you watch on Friday practices and even Saturday morning practice, you're trying to figure out, because if you're like me, you're trying to figure out the fantasy picks, which I completely messed up this weekend.
We got 90 points. You're 2 points ahead of us now. That's how well we did this weekend.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't even checked. I was afraid to.
You should be. Ours was there.
Yeah, it was bad. But I was watching on Friday practice, kind of see, and you could see hints of Mercedes pace here, certainly on Friday. Yeah. They're thereabouts, all up at the sharp end during practices. You could see that this circuit, in particular, was going to really kind of flatter the Mercedes. Conversely, you could kind of a little bit see McLaren looked a little off the pace. At the time, Sky and others suggesting, well, maybe they get the engines turned down a little bit. Maybe they're not going at it hammer and tongs. And fair enough, that could be a legit issue. But as it turns out, I think Friday practices and Saturday practice kind of showed us that, maybe the Canadian Grand Prix, just not a very friendly... Not a very friendly track to the McLaren. So we kind of saw that a little bit. And then it was completely evident with George's fantastic qualifying. He had to put it on pole. It was a great result for him. Great result for Kimi Antonelli, too, in qualifying. Great result for him, and great result for Max Verstappen. Because you were wondering, well, if McLaren would struggle, would that throw Max, the cat amongst the pigeons, that kind of thing. You were going to say.
I was just going to say, I love the fact that this is not a McLaren-friendly track, and McLaren finished P4, and Lando would have finished well if he would have finished, right? Like, so, boy, I when did this happen? I feel like Red Bull all of a sudden, like, Max wasn't happy today. He started P2, he ended P2.
Right.
Oh, my day, right? Like, where's this been for the last 20 years? I live for this just isn't our track, and we still finished, P4.
P4, right.
I'm thrilled.
Right. Well, let's jump in. We'll talk about how they finish. We'll start off sharp into the grid. We'll start off Mercedes. George Russell, as mentioned, converted that pole position into a P1, had a really good start, a little quicker than Max's. Looked as if Max was going to try to pressure George on the first part, stint, on the off chance that maybe they would struggle, maybe they, being Mercedes, would struggle with graining or maybe a little degrading in the hotter weather. And certainly Mercedes sort of telegraphed that publicly in the press. Now, whether that was true or not, I don't know. Could have been a little sportsmanship saying, it's hotter today and we're really worried about our tires because the hotter it is, the worse we do. And certainly they were telegraphing that in the press. Could have been gamemanship, but maybe Red Bull took the bait and thought, well, okay, if they're right, let's push them for a stint. Let's see what happens with George, and if he can manage the tires, into the first stint. Maybe he starts degrading, getting some graining, and we can take the lead. But that didn't happen. He absolutely had it covered. Was not a problem for George. Managed the pace the entire race. For George, really, it was just simply covering whatever Max and Red Bull did to bring it home. And he clearly had the pace to keep Max behind him. Terrific result from George, his fourth win in Formula One. And normally, in my mea culpa for this podcast, folks, is that we're recording on Sunday. And so I had the 24 hours, then I had the race in my time zone, not the wee hours of the morning. Mm-hmm. And then I had to do a race review, race report, and then the podcast notes. And it didn't give me a lot of time to really put a lot of flesh on these bones. So I apologize. Normally, I go back and review portions of the race to figure out exactly what happened and per team as I make notes for the podcast. So apologies for that up front. But
I just want to, I don't think there's anything here to apologize for. We all watched this race. The only people that were excited after this race was over was Mercedes.
Yeah, right.
All the other I watched the post-driver interviews. Everybody was like, well, it was like, George, yay, Kimi, woo! Yeah. Everybody else was sort of like, yeah, this wasn't the day we were hoping for. Yeah. Even Max was sort of like, well, this wasn't great. And then you had like Nico Hülkenberg that was like, this day was great until I got stuck in a DRS train, right? Like, so I don't think you need to apologize. Yeah. I blame Canada, right? Like, I apologized to Miami a couple weeks ago because I'm always dogging Miami, and the Miami this year was great. Canada, what'd you do here?
Yeah, normally they're great.
My one race, I don't know that rewatching would have helped your notes.
Yeah, may not have.
Wasn't a lot of water to squeeze from that rock here. I'm just going to keep with idioms that I don't think are real. But, I just think it's okay, and I blame the race as much as anything.
Right. Yeah, I took notes. I can't say that it was copious notes, but I did take notes.
That's fine.
So anyway, but a good day for George for sure.
Absolutely. I think that was the thing, and I think this is much like we've talked about Lando for a long time, sort of had the I hate this phrase, so that's why I'm going to say this. People like to say that athlete doesn't have the dog in them, right? So if you go with that, like Lando doesn't have the dog in him because he plays video games and he has all this social media stuff and he has his own merchy stuff and he's kind of like this. And so for a long time, people really didn't take Lando seriously. And I think there's been some shift in that. And I think we're starting to see that with George too. George, again, is that, like you're saying, he's a little yabba dabba do. He's a little his own kind of guy, right? He is. And then he has that very sort of like buttoned up British thing. And I think this is good that we're kind of seeing him be a little like, cheeky, funny plucky guy. Like, plucky. Yeah. I have more points to lose. Like, come on, George. I think it helps people that aren't necessarily gelling with his personality because it doesn't kind of fit the personality that people expect. He's not a James Hunt or whatever, right? He doesn't sort of fit this personality that people think athletes need to have. So I think this is good that we're starting to see him kind of like come into his own.
Yeah.
He's not in Lewis's shadow, and he's leading this team, and he's out there and he's telling people, I came here to win and I'm going to keep winning. So I think this is good to see George this way.
I do too. I don't know him. I don't know what he's like to be around. I don't know anything. I've not met him. I don't know. I just give him the benefit of the doubt and think he's a delightful guy. I have no idea what he's like. Maybe he's a jerk. I have no idea. But, for quite a while now, for years, I've been on George's side for many years. I was telling him he should have left Mercedes when they didn't move for 2 years. They should have got rid of Lewis, and they didn't. And I've been saying now for a year and a half or more that he should go to Aston, because a British team, this would be perfect, because then they got Newey, and that was even better, and all of this stuff. But it's kind of one of those things, Grace. Everybody says, why are you so on Mercedes and Toto about George? They complimented him, all that. Yeah, okay. Seriously, read the tea leaves. The guy just put it on pole with a fantastic performance. He just won the race from the pole, right? Managed Max Verstappen and everybody behind him. After the race, he gets done and he's cooling down, and after the race, it's on the radio. It's just
nothing.
And he's like, "Talk to me." Nothing.
Hello.
Nothing. Talk to me.
Somebody?
Nothing. Talk to me.
Cool.
And finally they go, "Yeah, good job." And he's like, "Yeah, okay." It's like,
cool.
Come on, man, throw the guy a bone. And meanwhile, Toto's like, "Oh, grande Kimi,
I love you so much.
grande." Poor George over here just drove his heart out this week. You know what I mean? I'm trying to overplay this. I swear I'm not, but I mean, you don't have to be a psychologist to look at the behavior here,
You know, and he has an engineer. Like, I get it. Toto can only talk to one of them at a time.
Yeah.
But he has a race engineer that's just his.
Yeah.
So there's always somebody that's on there telling you this is great. And then eventually the team principal will come on because he has to talk to both of you and he can't talk to both of you at one time.
Yeah.
But I hear that.
Weird. I don't know. So that's why, the faster he could get out of the Mercedes camp, I think the happier he would be personally.
Yeah. And then maybe that would give him some space to have, be a little bit more of his own man. I don't know.
I don't know either. Right?
Something. But I do think, and now they're back into P2 in the constructor. So take that.
Yeah. So with that, they're back up to P2. So it's good. Kimi Antonelli, P3. Yeah. Kimi had a great move on Oscar at the start. Very mature move. Read that corner perfectly. Took a little bit of the gamble, saw the gap, moved in, got around him at the start. I thought it was a great move by Kimi. Managed to keep Oscar back and behind him, even in the final laps when Oscar was closing in on him. And Kimi, I think he was on slightly older tires and struggling to keep him behind, but a very measured drive from a rookie. This guy's a teenager and didn't put a foot wrong in either attacking or defending. He did both fabulously. He even led briefly, but he didn't get ahead of himself. He marked the McLarens, and so when they boxed, he covered them. Meanwhile, George was covering Max, and so Mercedes strategy certainly on point. Great to see him win a race again, and just couldn't be happier for Kimi. I just think this young man is exceptional, and you can understand. Well, Toto is grande Kimi. He's going up, and you can see it. But Kimi is an extraordinary driver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I did also, you had mentioned about, that, was Mercedes just kind of playing the well, it's really warm today. Maybe we'll do some good. Yeah. Like, we all watch Vegas, right? Like, so then maybe they are overselling the fact that they aren't as good in the warmth, but we all watch Vegas. You were great. So there is some truth to that, even if they were overplaying it, right? And, but I do think these upgrades, I think they will continue the uphill climb of, doing well at all tracks and not just the really cold one in Vegas.
Yeah, I agree. And hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Although George kind of played it down, but he said, I don't think it's...
I mean, that's rightly so.
Yeah, he goes, I don't think we're in a situation where we're going to be great and vying for wins at all tracks. But, we knew this track would suit our car, and it did.
It's sort of like, you walk into a meeting and people are like, oh, Grace, I'm so glad you're here. oh, okay. I'm like, let's like tamp down those expectations a little bit. I'm really just here for the yucks and the snacks, right?
I came for the Krispy Kremes, man.
Right, maybe I'll say something insightful, but let's tamp that down and not make that sound like a given, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's only fair. You kind of want to keep expectations medium.
Yeah, you do. Let's see, Red Bull Max Verstappen P2, Yuki Tsunoda P12 Max. Seemed like Mercedes seemed to have some pace in Canada, nearly taking pole position, and I'd argue that it may. The only reason I say it could have been a little more track specific for the Red Bulls because they didn't bring any updates, so it wasn't like they brought updates and all of a sudden he nearly put it on pole. I kind of feel like this track just liked their car better than Spain. And as I mentioned, he tried to harass George early on in the laps in an effort to see if the Merc could grain the tires or struggle with grip in the hotter temps. Didn't happen. So, having done that, he kind of chewed his mediums up a little bit, but he settled back in for the long game. After his stop, came out just ahead of Kimi. That was really close. Held on to second. And then he managed his entire race from that point, managed his tires, had good pace, didn't have the pace to reel George in, but I think he was just kind of consolidating that position. Yeah. Any hope he had of staying in the Drivers' Championship definitely needed this kind of weekend, and so he gained some ground on Lando and Oscar. So, a good weekend. He thinks they extracted about what they could get out of the car, and he was happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, if you're like, well, we could have done better, and you were started P2 and you ended P2, yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
Of course, I think it's, let's see, if it would have been Williams, like if it would have been Alex Albon, he would have been like, I would have died to have been, anywhere near P2, right?
Right.
Like, let alone Max. It's kind of like I was talking with McLaren. It is nice to be in a place where you're like, oh, we only finished P2. Oh, my day could have been better. Right. What a great place to be.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Also, Yuki. Yeah. Talking about Yuki.
Yuki did not have a good day all weekend. This weekend is one that I'm sure he would love to just like float on down the St. Lawrence and never speak about again. Yeah, it was not so good.
It was a tough weekend for Yuki for sure. He finished down P12. He had that penalty. So he started farther back due to the penalty, had a tough day. They tried the one-stopper, which saw him run the hard compounds to lap 56. That was always going to be a big ask. Unfortunately, he just couldn't get into the points. So that was unfortunate.
Yeah, that was just never... it was just shot. And again, even in his interview, I was impressed he was able to come up with something to say. I mean, he's a professional, so, right, that's part of his life and his existence. But to me, I would have had nowhere. I would have been like, I was here. I'm going to go home now. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I agree. Let's see. Hey, Grace, this is fun.
Okay.
I was... okay. So... my whole Mac OS Pages is locked up on my notes, and I can't scroll, so now I'm going to have to get them from my email that I sent you. Good grief. This day, I'm telling you. Anyway, all right, let's jump forward, shall we? Where are
McLaren.
we? We're talking about McLaren. Yeah, Oscar Piastri P4. Lando Norris DNF. I'm looking down, folks, because I'm looking at my phone and I got all my notes on there, so apologies.
You're doing great. You're having a Yuki kind of day.
I am.
It's all right.
This has totally been a Yuki thing. I started off the podcast. I'm still grieving that Lewis killed Punxsutawney Phil. I'm not happy about that at all. I don't know how the hell we're going to predict our weather come February. But anyway, so Oscar Piastri P4. Lando Norris at DNF. Piastri had a decent race going, but it was clear he just didn't quite have the pace, certainly to challenge George or Max. Although Kimi did look reachable for Oscar. He was closing in on Kimi. Like I said, I think he had slightly older tires. He was closing in. Ultimately, the battle everyone was expecting to reveal itself eventually actually happened in Canada, right? With Lando lunging down the inside of Oscar on the main straight. And while Lando ended up in the wall, Oscar was able to continue. The team brought him in during the safety car just to make sure he didn't have any punctures on his tire. It was a free stop anyway. He had plenty of time. He came in, put on some soft tires, but the race ended under a safety car. Didn't need him. Definitely gained points. He went into this weekend 10 points ahead of Lando Norris. He leaves 22 points ahead of Lando Norris. So even though he didn't win the race, certainly benefited in the Constructors' Championship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then he, P4. Not too bad.
Right. Not too bad at all. So good for Oscar.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we have under Oscar, I've got Lando as a DNF. Isn't this tragic?
It is tragic.
I bet you were wondering, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? I thought, well, I'll get into it. So Lando looked good early on in the weekend. He was fast. He was. And over the weekend, he looked fast. He looked the faster of the two, if I'm honest, over the weekend. You had, I think in qualifying is when it started to unravel a little bit. But up until that point, I really felt like he was the faster of the two. He had that. Yeah, a couple of errors during qualifying, touched the wall, ran straight line the corner of the last chicane, put him on the back foot starting down to P7. So, that was going to be tough. But he did march from P7 back up to P5, did look quicker than Oscar, was reeling Oscar in. They both ended up getting DRS. Initially, it was just Lando. Then they both ended up getting close enough to Kimi where Oscar has it. It all went pear-shaped on the front straight. When Lando, he had a gap down the inside of Oscar to his thinking, but that gap wasn't really there. Closed quickly, and he got his left tires on the grass, ran into the back of Oscar, took his nose off, put him into the wall, and his race was over, which is really unfortunate. It's a shame because the move at the hairpin was great, Oh, yeah. Totally caught Oscar off guard. He just dove down the inside. It's just he went out a little wide, gave Oscar enough to come alongside. Had Oscar not had DRS, I think Lando would have had him. But because they both had DRS at that point, Oscar was able to pull back in front. And then that really put him into making that hairy move down the front straight. It's a shame because these unforced errors are ultimately what's going to see Oscar as the world champion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think the thing is though, is that if I was, Andreas or, anybody at the team, his engineers, anybody like that, I actually wouldn't be too hard about this because I think the thing is what you want, the worst thing that could happen is he loses confidence in himself or in the car, right? And so I think in basketball, we see it. Basketball, you have more opportunity. So it's much harder in racing because your opportunities are only 20 or 80, whatever, how many races we have now this season. But, I think but if you think of like in a basketball game, if you make a good shot, but it doesn't go in, you can't be too critical about that. That shot should have gone in, right? Sometimes that's going to happen. So I think everything he did would have led to the shot going in, except didn't go in. So in that sense, it was his error. It was an unforced error, but it was a good opportunity. And so I think that if I was the next person, like we talk about, there's that, like there was that moment when Bernardo a couple years ago was like, trying to like tell Charles Leclerc, don't be so hard on yourself, right? Like you were trying to do a good thing and it didn't work out, right? And so I think this to me fits in that kind of place. Like you were trying to do the right thing. Don't lose confidence in yourself. Don't lose confidence in the car. Trust your instinct. Sometimes you're going to you're going to stay out on slicks in the rain and you're going to be Brad Binder and you're going to win the race. Sometimes you're going to stay out on slicks in the rain and you're going to be Lando Norris and you're going to crash at Russia. So you know what I mean? But like both of those hero to zero kind of moves, I want you to make those if I'm the person behind you, whether I'm your team principal or your engineer or something like, or Zach Brown, your CEO, right? I want you to trust in yourself, and it so could have worked. It could have worked.
I know.
And it didn't.
It didn't.
And the next time you try it, it might work. So don't be too hard on yourself. So I think that I think as a, fan grace is like, I was, oh my gosh, we were so close. This could have been great. Why did you do this? But like human being team principal grace was like, no, man, we got this. We're going to, you learn from this mistake. We learn as a team. We see where this is going to go. You didn't take each other out, right? Like up until that moment, you were very clean against each other. You didn't tracing point this thing and crash each other out, right? Like this all could have gone worse. And you were very respectful for each other, racing each other. So I think that, it crashed and you DNF'd and that's bad, but otherwise,
right.
We're just going to keep moving forward and don't lose faith in yourself. Your instincts are right.
I agree.
Stick with them.
Yeah. I mean, it's, well, you know what it is.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
There you go.
And if you go for a gap that doesn't exist, you're Pastor Maldonado. Why does nobody ever finish that quote?
Right. Let's see. Ferrari, Charles Leclerc in P5. Lewis Hamilton P6. Charles was upset with the team that they chose to go for the two-stopper. He thought he could make it on a one-stopper on the mediums. He said that why did we go with this? Why are we boxing? Why do we switch to the hards? Or why aren't we boxing yet? They said we don't want to run too many laps on mediums. He was like, I'm fine on the mediums, and then he was wanting plan C. They were on plan B. It just seems like it got a little confusing for Charles and the team. Well, it may not have been confusing the team. The team had all the telemetry. They made the decision we're on plan B, whether he wants plan C or not. But that's kind of how that all played out. Go ahead, Grace.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, but that's the opposite problem. I mean, this is classic Ferrari, right? Like, but as a driver, this happens to all of us, right? Most of us all have a boss. My job, if my boss says, we're going to do this, I go, I don't think that's a good idea, boss. And my boss goes, why? And I go, well, here's where I see it. And he goes, I hear what you're saying, Grace. That's not what we're going to do. Okay? And then I go, okay, well, my job has been done, right? We've discussed it. We've assessed everybody. We've brought in all the information we can. We're making the best decision we can. Sometimes you have to make some other decision, right?
Right.
That's fine. And then, Charles or Lewis should just go, okay, I'm telling you what my situation is here on the track, but you guys have the telemetry. I trust you. That has never existed at Ferrari across any of their drivers in the modern era. And I think that's where the problem is that then they don't trust them when they say, no, I hear what you're saying, but we're going to go with plan C. And they're like, okay, I'm just not going to come in because we're actually going to go with plan B.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of people talk about the communication, Lewis trying to figure out the communication of the team and his new race engineer, and it takes time to get, a cadence with him and all that. Okay.
Maybe a race, but not this far into the season.
Well, that's a nice platitude, but all you got to do is look at Charles. He's been there how long, and he still has issues trying to communicate with the team. So this whole concept of, just take him and then, give him a race or two, and it'll be like Bono and Lewis back together with Ricky. And it's kind of like, no, Charles is still confused by his side of the garage, and they're confused with him. So that's, they
all speak a common language.
Yeah, right.
In MotoGP, there's this discussion of because Honda often has problems. So Luca Marini, who doesn't speak Japanese, right? And so he learned that they speak English, but they take him very literally. So if he says you should make it like this, and then they do that, and he's like, whoa, I'm just speaking hyperbolically. I spoke too big, right? So it took him a while to kind of realize that what he said, even though they all speak English, exactly, they're going to do exactly what you say. And if you say make it a 9, but you really meant a 4, and you were just being, dramatic or whatever, that's what they did. And now we're not communicating anymore. Right. That's different, right? That is you and I have to sit together and we talk to each other. And we've been doing this for a long time. We figure out each other's cadences, even though I still interrupt you all the time. But Lewis is a professional who's had many different race engineers in his life, and his race engineers had lots of different drivers in his life. Like your ability to go, when I say this and you said that didn't work. Okay, so what do you want to do, right? Like they have plenty of time to work this out.
Yeah.
They do this for a living.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm with you. I don't buy it. Maybe a race, maybe it takes a minute to figure it out.
No,
he's not Kimi Räikkönen. It's not going to take that long.
Yeah, I don't know. Charles is still having trouble with his. So,
I agree. Yeah. I think that Ferrari there's no trust, and that I don't know how, because ultimately I've worked for bosses where in that scenario I was talking about, where I put something out and my boss says and does something else, and at some point then I can't work in this job anymore. Yeah. Because there's no trust. I know you're always gonna know things I don't know because you're higher up the food chain than I am, and I have to have that trust in you. And if I don't, then this isn't really gonna work.
Right.
I'm just going to get jaded, and that's not good.
Right.
I'll go somewhere else.
Lewis killed a groundhog, unfortunately. That did damage to his car, serious lack of pace because of that, damage the underside of the car. Had a good start, and I thought he was, at some point he was just out there struggling, just didn't have the pace. After the damage to his car, he was out there basically running in his own private Idaho, I mean, he was just, 20 seconds or something is the car behind him and 20 seconds is the car ahead of him. And he just, he's like, I'm lost, guys. I don't know what's going on out here. So
where are we?
Yeah. So it was unfortunate for him. It's a tough race, but when you lose 20 points of aero, your expectations have to be right-sized on Lewis there. There's not much you can do. So,
well, he didn't even know he hit the groundhog. It was only after the race that somebody told, that he found out. So it's not like he knew that his car was damaged. Maybe he would have had different expectations.
Yeah, for sure.
He didn't know that.
Listen.
I did before you move off of Ferrari. I just want to put this out here. So there was the whole thing in the news media this week about how the Italian news media, how they should fire Fred and Ferrari's terrible. Yeah. I just want to put this out there for people. Like, sands through the hourglass. Now's when the Italian media starts saying that Fred needs to go. Like, this is always, I love how it's like clockwork. We're at, race 8. Oh, and now's when the Italian media is going to say, this is terrible and you all need to go.
Right? Yeah, he's got to go. He's got to go.
Clutching the pearls, get that Fred guy out of here. I just thought, and that took up so much, especially until we got to qualifying, but it just sucked up so much energy out of the room in the beginning of the weekend. It was just like,
it did.
Fred was just like, and again, props, because I just would have been like, are you new to the sport? Are you new to the Italian media? Right. Right. This is about the right. It's June. This is about rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when they tell me I should be fired, and then we'll keep going, right?
Right. Well, and it's I saw somebody online saying, they got rid of all the personnel and all the engineers. They changed both drivers. They changed team bosses and blah, blah, blah. And the only thing left is get rid of Fred. And I'm like, good point there, Tiger. But they had Mattia Binotto and before that, and then they've went through a lot of team bosses too.
They said this about Jean Todt, and he's the last winningest team principal they had.
Yeah, so they've changed team bosses. Maurizio Arrivabene. Yeah, right.
That's right.
Mattia and I even met him in Austin. I can't remember his name. The one before Maurizio.
I can see his face.
Yeah, he was a super nice guy, but. Anyway, there's 3 before they got to Fred, so they've been through.
Right.
Let's see.
So don't worry, people. This is. I did love too that Jonathan Noble, of all people, who's been around for and does this professionally for a long time, was like, well, when one Italian press says it, you don't worry about it, but there's 2. Like, I like that Jonathan Noble really had to try hard to make this into a story, right? Like, he knows there's no story there, and he's like, but two of them said it, so maybe it's an issue. It's not, man. He knows it. I enjoyed it, though.
Let's see.
Good job.
Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, P7, Lance Stroll, P17. Fernando had a good weekend on balance, good qualifying, then a nice race to a P7. The upgrades they recently brought out really do seem
really
to be
worked well
working.
for him.
Yeah, I think so too. They've got him more competitive, and not just at this track. I don't think it's necessarily that this is track specific so much. I think in aggregate, I think the upgrades have benefited in the hands of Fernando anyway. He seems to be making the most out of it. So it was a decent race. Interesting that he did the entire race. I think I was looking at the Pirelli picture. I think all the tires he used in the race were all scrubs.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Started on scrubs, pitted, switched to scrubs. Yeah. So that was interesting. It was kind of tell us that maybe the delta between scrubs and new tires wasn't as dramatic here as we've seen previous races, right?
That could be.
Yeah.
That could be with Canada.
Yeah. So
before you move off Fernando Alonso, though, can we talk about his mustache?
Yeah.
I know that's more Albon's Cats material, and that I'll be here next week too. But I'm just saying, like, can we talk about this mustache? Why does? First of all, I mean, Emerson Fittipaldi was there, so this is all the more. I'm trying to convince Flip because he has now a full beard. I'm like, You're just grow him out. Go the full emo. That's all you're missing in this look now. You have a beard, you have a mustache. Just grow the sideburns. Go full emo. And so I think that. We all know that Alonso could do that, right? I mean, we've seen those eyebrows. He could grow that beard right now. You go full emo. What are you just doing the mustache? What are you holding back, man? Just go for it.
Start to grow it long, It'd be good for him. Let's see.
Exactly.
Lance Stroll. I'm just not sure what's going on with Lance. He had the wrist injury.
I don't know. He was just like...
he seems so disengaged all weekend. And I mean, he clearly wasn't a factor in the race. He got that penalty for forcing Gasly off track. It's almost, I don't know. I mean, they got the same issue as Red Bull does. They got one guy in the car scoring points every single week and one guy who's just not even on the same island, And
but at least Yuki's engaged, right? Like, I think if...
Yeah, Lance, did you see the Thursday press conference with him? He's like, You excited? Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your wrist? Fine.
I've worked with teenagers more engaging, right? Like, I don't understand, and you have media training. I'm sure there are lots of times that people, they have to put on their game face and go, like, did you think Lando wanted to go talk to people? He didn't. But he has to do this. This is part of his job. He's required to do it. You come up with what you're going to say, and I don't know how they just keep repeating themselves a million times because I would find that hard too. Like, which is what Max always complains about. We see it as, this is the first time I've seen you ask this question, but it's really like at least the 10th time somebody's asked you this question. And so yes, at some point Max gets a little terse about it. But Lance is always just like, good, fine. He always looks so despondent, and he can only be on so many, maybe it is the pain. Maybe he can only be on Tylenol, because I can't imagine he could be on some heavy-duty painkiller and drive a Formula One car. So, I mean, he did have his undisclosed wrist surgery that he won't talk about. But, I
don't know. I feel like when I was young and played a lot of sports, I felt like, there was always certain teams you get on, and there'd be another kid in there with you, and his heart wasn't in it, his head wasn't in it, his dad was forcing him to play,
It's
and
hard.
it's like, I kind of feel like this is kind of a case where this isn't what he would want to be doing, but his dad owns a team. He's like, you're going to drive that car and you're going to like it. You'll have nothing to like it. I don't know. He just seems I was sitting there watching the press conference and that, dude, there are people that would give their left arm for that seat and have worked so hard to get there. And you literally, whether you believe it or not, you come across to the world as, whatever.
And for sure, somebody's pointed that out to him. They have all these teams have PR departments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like somebody would have said to you, hey, I know you hate this, but we can't hire Danny Ricciardo to do this for you. So we're going to put on your big boy pants and smile a little bit. But I think again, when he was teammates with Vettel, I think could make a Rock laugh. Right. Yeah. And a Rock look engaging, right? Like Vettel just has that in his, he made Kimi Räikkönen like his best friend. You know what I mean? Like if Sebastian Vettel can't crack a joke and make you smile or get some personality out of you. There's no hope. I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but I'd say that
I don't know.
Just watching him from afar, I would say that he isn't in a great headspace right now, and it really looks like he doesn't want to be there.
There's plenty of other places that he could go. If he wants to be in racing, he could be somewhere else and be successful. I can't. I mean, again, we've all worked at jobs where like, this place is killing me.
Yeah.
You have to do something else. And he doesn't have the same concerns, I assume, that we do, which is, I need health insurance, right? Like,
right.
I don't know, right? Like,
very true.
So maybe I have to drag on in this terrible thing because Cobra is really expensive, right?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have that, I assume, problem. So what do you
don't I know
friend?
that problem?
I know you do, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, I have stayed in a company. I'm like, this job is killing me. Health insurance, right? It's terrible. And so I don't recommend that. So I'm saying, Lance, if you don't want to be here, man, life, the space between birth, death, that dash, very short. Yeah. Do something else. Don't waste your dash on this.
I agree.
If you don't want to be doing this, don't do it.
Don't do it. Let's see. Kicksauber, Nico Hulkenberg, P8. Gabriel Bortoletto, P12. Another point-scoring race for Nico. It makes you wonder, just wondering, if we're starting to see some of the effects of Jonathan Wheatley and Mattia Binotto and maybe even Audi dipping in now. Are we starting to see some impact that these folks are starting to have on this team?
I think so.
You know, Nico is delivering. If you give him a car to do it, he's going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And this is 2-point scoring on the trot. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but a great result for him. He looked pretty quick most of the weekend, but a great result. Yeah, he inherited it when Lando crashed. He would have been P9, but still a great result for Sauber.
I agree. I think that, and Bortoletto is we're just waiting. I mean, I think that we haven't seen him at his best yet.
I agree with you on that, Grace. And, because he was on a one-stopper here like Yuki was, and it just didn't work out. But I agree with you. I think there's some things I've seen from Gabriel that I thought were pretty impressive. I'm not lumping him in the same camp of what I've seen from Isaac Hadjar, but there have been some moments that I thought were good and some others that were kind of ragged, but you would expect that from a rookie. But anyway, I agree with you.
And I think everybody speaks very highly of Gabby. I mean, nobody has been like, well, he's fine. So I think, and I mean, Hulkenberg is very also positive about him. So I think it'll just be time, and probably at another team that isn't, whether that becomes Audi or it's just not at this team. Right. I think it's hard to really get a good assessment of who he is as a driver.
Agreed. Williams, you've got Carlos Sainz P10, Alex Albon DNF. Carlos grabbed a point with Lando's crash, but he had a lot of hard work to do to recover from his position where he started.
Two very unhappy drivers in their post-race interview.
Yeah, they were both
like Carlos
unhappy.
was like, I got a point. Whee! Great. I know you're all just trying to cheer me up, but I got a point. Great.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, they were both in, Alex is on the radio arguing with the team, wasn't happy. Why listen to me. It was not, for the team listening on the radio, the stuff they went through on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, listening to James Vowles on the pit wall, for them to come out of this weekend with a point, I think, is a real cherry on top. It's a little bit of a bow on a present wrapped in brown paper bag. It was a very ragged weekend for this team, and yet they managed to claw a point out of it. So kudos.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what Val's verdict is going to to this week, right? That's going to be a spicy podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Get your Zoom in feature ready because you're going to need it.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Got Alpine, Pierre Gasly.
Did you do Haas? I think we missed Haas.
I did miss Haas. Thanks for catching that.
No problem.
Haas, I'm so sorry. Esteban Ocon, P9, Ali Behrman, P11. Here's what I have. Esteban has really picked up the pace in leadership, scoring points again. And it's interesting that while quali wasn't great. Friday's race pace actually did seem pretty decent. So that 1 lap pace may not have had it, but that race pace over Friday seemed pretty good. And then he managed to turn that around. You know, you would have been a P10, inherited P9 with Lando out. But and I'm happy about that because, you know, Esteban's taking a lot of stick, and after running over Gasly at Portier at Monaco, and kind of felt bad for him. But, you know, he's kind of grabbing the reins and you know, wringing some performance out of this. A 2 points finish, you know, they need that with Sauber sort of resurgence, so they've got to take the fight to him. And I think where Ali out of the points, I think Esteban's rising to the occasion. That's a good sign.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's something to this Komatsu guy, right? Like, I think that Haas just is a different ethos, and I think that, I mean, not that this is where I want Esteban to be as a team. You know, I'd rather be more at a team closer to the front. I do think that he's found a place, at least, that if he was going to be at a back marker, this seems to suit him better. He seems to be having a more enjoyable time here than he was at his previous employer. So that's good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ollie Behrman was P11. He had a little bit more of a ragged weekend. The 2-stopper, he tried to make that work. It didn't really work for him. He tried to make his hard compounds go from lap 18 to lap 66, finished on the softs, but he dove in there at the last minute, like a lap before Oscar did after the crash. So that was more preventative. You know, if I'm honest, I think Ollie looked a little ragged in Canada, touching the wall a few times, running over the curbs, cutting chicanes. Seemed like a little bit of a tougher weekend for Ollie than Esteban. So needs to kind of get back on top of that. You know, and it's tough, Grace, because they're measuring against. Yeah, he did. That's exactly where I was going. He comes in really high, had some experience last year sitting in, a lot of expectations on him because he walked in with a little bit of F1 experience. And yet you've got Isaac Hadjar, who's absolutely delivering. In Spade, you've got Kimi Antonelli. And this leaves kind of a race between Ollie, Liam Lawson, and Gabby. And it's... You know, Ollie needs to kind of pick that up a little bit.
Yeah, the bear. Get with it.
Yeah, the bear. Come on, buddy. Let's see. We did Williams. Let's see. Down to Racing Bulls. Speaking of Isaac Hadjar, P6. Liam Lawson, a DNF, unfortunately.
Alpine. We're at Alpine.
We are at Alpine. Good grief. It's really small writing, folks.
We'll fix it in editing. It's fine.
I'll fix it in edit. Post-edit. Okay. If my notes hadn't locked up, and they're still over here just beach balling away.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's terrible.
We're doing it. We're fine.
But anyway, we are at Alpine. Pierre Gasly, P15, Franco Colapinto in P13. Gasly's race was really compromised by bad quality. Then he ran wide by Lance. That left him in basically full recovery mode at that point. The car just had no interest in Canada. I mean, it clearly would rather have stayed in Europe. It just, in both Franco's hands and Pierre's hands, there just did not have pace around here.
No, it was bad.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Nope, I was going to say, I know that you also are a fan of the Ted Kravitz notebook.
Yeah.
But so in the quali notebook, so shout out to Ted for pointing out that Laurent Rossi had said, I need 100 races to get this team. Well, we're now at 100 races. What do you think now about that investment? You know, right? Like he was like 4 drivers, 4 team principals, including you. And this team is, it's going to take more than 100 races. So not great. And then he announced that their CEO doesn't exist anymore. And it was just like, so Flavio's just in charge of everything now?
Yeah. What is Flavio the head of Renault now? What just happened?
What's going on over there?
I don't know.
Right?
It's like rats leaving a sinking ship over there. Can you imagine Flavio at the head of Renault?
I mean, but even Flavio has to be like, whoa, what?
I know. And there was a lot of people talking.
Special assistant, and now he's like,
I know. He's supposed to be a consultant to the CEO, not even a team boss, right? And so now what's he going to do, and who's the CEO going to be, and all that stuff. And what's bizarre is there were some rumors that and it could have been just made up, but I saw a headline say, Fernando and shock move back to Alpine. And I thought
that was a rumor.
I thought, what? Really? And then I thought, well, wait a minute. He and Flavio are like this. That wouldn't surprise me if he's tired of putting up with the Stroll roll over there. So anyway,
I don't know. I just think that team is in such a weird, like, just when I think things at Alpine can't get weirder, here it is. That who's running that team? We don't know. And I don't know that Flavio wants to be running the team, right? Like, being a consultant, right? A special advisor. I want to be I'm a special advisor to this podcast, right? That means I don't do stuff. I just come and I spew some insightful stuff and I go home, right? I'm the Kimi Räikkönen of podcasting. But I don't think that's what I would sign up for all of a sudden if you're like, Grace, you're going to be in charge of everything and I'm done. Like, no, Todd, I'm not here for that. Yeah. You need to be the CEO. I'm not here for that. So I can't see where Flavio Briatore is just going to be like, and now I run this whole team. I just don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks when we get to Austria. Who's in charge of this team?
It's so strange. It is
a very strange thing. I don't know what's going on.
It's all very French.
It is very French.
Very French.
But it was just like as if Gasly, and it's almost like, how could this day get worse? Okay, it's worse.
It just got worse. Yeah.
Maybe Jack Doohan got out at the best time.
Yeah, Jack was really bemoaning, being demoted. Maybe he's getting out at the right time. I don't know.
I mean, maybe, man. I don't know.
Let's see. Colapinto tried the one-stop 2 box pretty early. I want to say around lap 14-ish or something like that. That left a heck of he had a lot of hard yards from there. So that was difficult. His car just was, like Pierre, did not have the pace. It had no interest in being in Canada. So that's where he finished on P13.
In his post-race interview, he looked like he'd seen some things.
He did.
Jalapeno did not look good.
Yeah.
He looked, he had, it was clear.
He looked like he was sitting in the car going, who's in charge of this thing? Then put her in charge, man.
Put her in charge. I just think he was just like, hello? Do I still have an engineer? I'm on my own now. Okay.
He and George Russell. Hey, talk to me.
Yeah, somebody. Maybe it's Gasly and Colapinto just talking to each other,
Maybe.
right? Like, we're each other's engineer now.
Right.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm my own boss.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
What does your data say? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Racing Bulls. Isaac Hadjar, P6. Liam Lawson, DNF. Hadjar, a tough weekend. Yeah, look, you can't get every race right, okay?
Right.
I think Isaac's doing a fabulous job, but you can't get everywhere. This is a tough weekend for him. He had that penalty during qualifying that left him started a little bit back on the grid, had a lot of work to do from there, DRS training in full effect. I kind of felt like he could sneak into the points, but the one stopper on hards just didn't work. Didn't work for him.
It didn't do it.
No.
Nope.
It didn't. Conversely, at Liam, who I think was headed for a two-stopper, I felt like they could engage that two-stopper, and he might nip into the points too. They were both running kind of right there next to each other. I kind of felt, but then they boxed the car and retired it to save the PU, so they must have had some sort of issue that was going to make the power unit go, grenade itself, and so they wanted to protect it.
I mean, first of all, Lawson started from pit lane in like Austin 2022, right? Like,
right.
Right. So, and then they're like, we need you to come in. And even in Liam's interview, they're like, well, they stopped me because of my power unit. Like, no, we didn't start you in Austin 2022 with a new power unit for you to blow it up, my friend, right? Like, no, we're bringing you in because we need this to last the rest of the season, right? But it was just like, what race were you starting at from the pit lane? What, he had like 680, what was it, like an 80 grid place penalty or something? Like, well, what race does that put you at? China 2 years ago? I don't know.
Poor guy. Can't get a break.
Yeah, it was rough. It was a rough for both of them. And I think not deserved for either of them. Yeah. So they'll just have to keep at it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I don't know that it was one of those cases where they just weren't going to be that good at this track. I just felt like, maybe they weren't as good as maybe they were at Spain at that track, but it just feels like a missed opportunity there. I kind of feel like points was a missed opportunity for them there.
I don't know why.
I could be wrong.
The one-stopper hards. Listen, Todd, nobody's here because we don't live in the pit lane. I'm not Ted Kravitz. I'm just I'm reading and reacting here, people. Yeah. That's what you're here for.
Read and react.
Fine. That's right. And so I think you're right. I think the one stopper on hards was just never that was just never a good strategy. And everybody we've gone through that's tried it was not a good strategy.
No, that's exactly right.
It just didn't work out for anybody.
And I would imagine after Leclerc got out of the car and saw that all the one stoppers didn't work, he probably that wouldn't work for us either.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
You did it work for you? No. You? No. All right, cool.
Orange whip.
All right, great.
Orange whip.
All right, see you next week. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, let's give out some awards. That's what we do on a race review podcast. We tend to like to give out move of the race, which we like. Let me look through my notes here.
Well, look faster, Todd.
I know. I'm trying. Hang on. Here, I got them. Okay. First one, move of the race. Grace, who'd you have for move of the race? Doesn't have to be pass. Just move. It could be anything about the race.
Oh, well, that's good because I really could only find 2 passes, right?
Oh, okay.
3 passes, right? No, I went with what I think was
Lando on Oscar.
That was one of the passes, but that's not the one I picked, right? That was the most obvious pass of the race. But you had mentioned earlier the Kimi Antonelli pass, in the beginning. I thought that was really great.
Was a great
but
one.
I ended up giving it to Nico Hülkenberg because I thought when Albon. No. I thought it was just more like the veteran eyeballs that he had, right? Like when Albon almost took Calapinto out, and Nico Hülkenberg was like, and I'm just going to go around these fools. Like he knew that this was not going to go well, and just went right around this chaos, right? And I was like, he didn't get involved. He did a nice job, just went right around it. Nico Hülkenberg, he's your guy.
Yep. He wasn't there for the drama.
That's what I gave it to.
My move of the race was the Formula One global TV coverage for covering quite a bit of the midfield battles this race.
That's a good point.
And that was really good. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of good battles going on back there, midfield, and a lot of times we don't get to see a lot of it. And, I want to dwell on it. Of course, I want to show the leaders too, but I just felt like it was a little more even through the field, Yeah. And maybe I was hypersensitive because I watched nearly 24 hours of Le Mans, and it was all just showing the hyperclass. I rarely saw GTs. Yeah.
But I think you're right. I wouldn't have even seen the Nico Hülkenberg pass if that hadn't happened. So I think that's
so kudos to them. I was critical of you guys several weeks ago about it, and you guys did a great job on that. So I'd be remiss in not giving you a pat on the back when you did a great job.
I think that's good.
Let's see. Next award we like to give out, we call Donkey of the Race. Oh, yeah.
Get down. Not good enough, damn it. Not good enough.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Yep. Donkey of the Race. Grace, who'd you get?
Okay, except that my Donkey of the Race, I don't think they do know what the problem is because we've just spent like 20 minutes talking about it. I give Donkey of the Race the whole Ferrari strategy team. I stand by the fact you got rid of the best strategist team, the best strategist you have, you sent to Williams. I don't know. What are you people doing? What are you doing? How hard is this?
Somehow I knew you would find a way to make Ferrari as the donkey. It's perfect. No, never mind your driver, drove into his teammate and hit the wall, and his teammate didn't finish on the podium. But it's Ferrari.
I think that what I wrote in my notes was that, yes, obviously Donkey of the Race to Norris makes the most sense. I totally am here for that, right? Yeah. But I also stand by the fact that I think, as I said earlier, you don't want him to lose confidence in himself. So I don't want him to lose confidence in himself. I want him to keep going for a gap, and that gap is going to be there one of these times. So you just keep being you, Lando. Don't lose faith in yourself. And I'm going to give to Ferrari because Ferrari...
You're getting the hang of this, Lando.
Ferrari should have lost confidence in themselves a long time ago, and yet they still have not.
I know.
Ferrari, get it together. Get it together, Ferrari.
I know. Let's see. My donkey, I had Lando. Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right. And then the final.
Wait, before we move off on Ferrari, right? Because you had mentioned this. I think what makes it most egregious in this race, as opposed to every other race where Ferrari strategy exists, is what you were talking about. Like around lap 63 or so, when like the gap between Norris and Leclerc is 15 seconds and the gap between Hamilton and Alonso is 25 seconds. They're just like, where are they? It's like I'm watching the dots go around the track and it's like everybody clumped up. Red one all by itself, red one all, everybody clumped up again. Like, what were they doing out there? They're just like running their own race. Are there other cars that like the rapture happened and it's just me and Leclerc out here? Like, whoa, where's everybody? So I just think
like
it's much
Charles
more
Leclerc, the Omega Man. He's like Chuck Heston.
Just more specifically here that it was just so egregiously obvious that they were running like, what happened? They were in no man's land the whole race.
It's crazy.
Sorry, what were you doing?
Neville. Okay. Then finally, the last award we tend to give out is Drive of the Race.
We'll do it live.
Yes, we will. Oh, yes.
You like my face? You like it?
Yes, we do, Sergio. All right, Drive of the Race. Who'd you give it to?
First of all, before we get there, somebody on Reddit referred to Pecco Bagnaia as Pecco Perez. I think that's great. It's not quite the same situation, but I love the phrase Pecco Perez is great.
That is good.
I like that. Or, Checo Bagnaia. Either way, it was kind of catchy. I liked it. Not quite the same situation, but I'm here for Pecco Perez. But nonetheless, I think this is, I don't know who else you could give this to. It has to go to Kimi and Antonelli. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It was great. Who doesn't love that? And he was so excited, which we all love too. I mean, it was like Pierre Gasly winning in Italy. You just that kind of like, oh my God, I did this. And he was excited and the team was excited, and George and Max just sprayed him on the podium, and it was just like that kind. It was great. I gave Driver of the Race to Kimi Antonelli.
Totally warranted. The world spoke, and that's who they voted for, and I could not disagree with that at all. Although I'll say, George, I got your back. I'll give you Driver of the Race because you threw it on pole. And you managed the entire race. Max was never a factor. McLaren was never a factor. Yeah. You managed your tires. You managed the pace. I got to give it to George. You've covered Kimi, which I totally 100% agree with. But I'm gonna have George's back, like I always have for the last several years. George, you don't listen, but you should listen to the podcast because I've been carrying water for you, Tiger, for about 5 years now. So anyway, I give him Drive the Race. It was a great race by George.
So I'd like to add a fourth award, which is my pet peeve of the race.
Okay, what was your pet peeve?
Has to be the fact that every time they showed the video screen in the hairpin, we at home saw clips of the F1 movie.
Yes.
Why? And it's the same clip every time. Why?
I know.
Who made that decision?
I don't know.
That was the stupidest thing. It was so distracting. I had no idea what happened in the hairpin at any point in this race because it was so distracting. So I'm looking at you, whoever you are, if you made this decision,
it was bad.
Don't ever do this again. The movie comes out next weekend, I think, right? And then hopefully we never have to talk about it again because I want to see this movie. I'm here for that. But that was just like too much.
I couldn't agree more. And here's a little bit of a clue for you that on the television screen, that big screen is a large portion, a large percentage of our television screen on that camera angle. And when the races come into the hairpin, it was so big with so much action on it, it was confusing. It made it very difficult for me to follow what was going on in the hairpin in the actual race because I had Brad Pitt on fire, flipping over fences and the other guy, yelling at it. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Never do that again.
Don't ever do that again. You can't put content on there that takes away from the actual content. I'm there to watch.
Because who watching that race doesn't know about the F1 movie?
Yeah,
again,
good grief.
I know here in the United States, everybody knows. There's nobody here that doesn't know about this movie. You let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. I don't know, but I'm just saying, this wasn't one of my 3 categories, so I made a 4th one, which is, please never do this again. This is a big pet peeve. Don't do it.
Right. I liked the directors. I saw a little extended clip in the build-up of the weekend. And he said, so we went in and we asked the whole audience, how many of you have heard of Formula One and won arm races? And then And we play the movie and says, now how many would be interested in going to Formula Race? And all their arms are raised. It's like, who did you talk to? Where did you play that at? Oh, come on.
I don't know either. And then you're just going to create Drive to Survive all over again. Again, I've said this a million times. I have a friend. She will go see any racing movie with me. Will she sit through any sporting event with me? Never. You're just setting up people's expectations, because there are plenty of people that are going to watch F1 the movie and be like, yeah, let's go watch some F1. And then they're going to sit through a race like Canada and they're going to be like, why did you make me watch this? They're not all great. That's true with any sport. That's why it's a sport. It's not a play. There's not scripts. There's not a line. Some games are going to be great. Some games aren't going to be as great. We watch them all. Sometimes I take a nap. I try not to, right? Like, that's just the way this rolls, and man. It's true with every sport.
Some games Derek Warwick is disinvited to.
Well, that whole thing that's a whole thing.
That is a thing.
That was such a whole thing that I was just like, it was funny because when Flip and I were talking about that at the end, I was like, and you know what would solve this problem? Professional referees, right? Like, none of this craziness.
Stop the madness.
Talk about an onion that the more layers got peeled off of that Derek Warwick story. I was like, who's running this sport?
Eddie everywhere.
Sport? What are you doing, my man? Just get some professionals and we'll be done with it.
Need to decolonize the head. All right. Well, that's what we think about this race. You let us know what you think about this race, and you can do that by going to theparkforme.com and sharing your opinion. If you like the podcast, go to your favorite podcast player and give us a good rating. We would appreciate that as well. I get enough hate. And huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. We could not and would not do with this podcast without you. And if you're listening going, what's a Patreon? Just go to our website, theparkforme.com. On the right-hand side and even at the bottom, it says support us here. You can click on that and you can sign up to be a Patreon a supporter for as little as $1 a month. And we are incredibly grateful for your support.
Weren't those the ghosts in Harry Potter?
Time for go to bed. Anyway, all right. Until next week when we come back to do it all over again, this is Todd saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain